All right, everybody, how we doing? Let me just send one thing real quick. Hello, hello, hello. You guys hear me okay? Yeah? Hold on. What's going on here? Let me just send one thing real quick. This is what I gotta do nowadays, because I'm so restricted on time. Also, I counted 3 points. 3 points was by my count. So restricted on time by you folks in chat that now I gotta send files and shit as the stream begins. But that's okay. Let me just message my editor. All right. So we got a juicy fucking chapter, didn't we? This was a phenomenal chapter. I mean, phenomenal. Well, okay. So we got the basic thing that we were all hoping for, right? Which was, oh wait, I gotta add 3 points. We got the juicy thing that we were hoping for, which was the what was it? The reveal, right? Hold on. I'm trying to... Oh, yeah. All right. There we go. Yeah, we got the reveal. So I'm juggling a few things. We got the reveal of Shanks' brother. We got the design reveal, name reveal, all that stuff that we wanted, right? But what I really loved about this chapter was all the other shit. We got a lot of other juicy shit to work with. Particularly Loki and Harold's story is ramping up to getting really interesting. And even Rodo is sneaking in as a secretly, seemingly important character. With potentially some character arc or something. Here, let me just change the... Let me do this shit for you guys. Here, hold on. You get the late penalties in. Here we go. Current point total, 116. But you guys notice the points, I'm keeping it under control right now. I'm keeping it pretty tight. We're not like we're done getting 10, 15, 20, 30 points in single batches. Now it's going to be a slow, steady drip. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys never get another point again. I'm just kidding. I would be very surprised if you guys never got another point again. But yeah, in general, I'm gonna be pretty tight with it. Okay, so Loki shit was interesting. Even Gunko's ability is interesting. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Dick so small, I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 10. Kaido has a lot of subtle motifs in common with Elbaf. His line about death bringing completion has sentiments said by both Ripley and Jarl, for example. I bet Harold is his dad. The Kaido, or Harold being Kaido's dad theory is interesting. Here's the thing. So, how do I say this? With Kaido being, or Harold being Kaido's dad, timeline-wise, perfectly fine, because giants are old as fuck, so it totally works, right? So timeline-wise, it can add up. No issue there. But, here's the thing. Kaido is not giant-sized. Now, from what we know, if a giant and a human has a kid, the kid still turns out giant size. What size is Colin? Can you guys tell me what size is Colin? Colin looks like a giant-sized kid to me, you know? Colin looks like a giant. Because Kaido just doesn't seem big enough to be a giant. You know what I'm saying? Kaido doesn't seem big enough. I'm just going based off of... I mean, at the end of the day, it's possible Oda doesn't stick to genealogy that tightly. Yeah, the scales on Harold's armor and Kaido's scales, yeah, it lines up perfectly. I mean, similar visage, similar sort of... even the... It's not even similar design. It's like some of the faces that Kaido makes is damn near identical. Like, if I look at chapter, like, 900... I don't want to share too much here. Shit. At the same time, you guys got to remember that like sometimes things seem like they fit really, really nicely, and then it doesn't turn out to be. Yeah, if you look at like chapter 907, it's just like Kaido's opening expression there. It's similar. If you look at 900 or 824, 824. Hold on, let me find some stuff for you guys before I talk out of my ass. Where's Little Pirate Games? Maybe I'm misremembering. I can't share screenshots of you here. Yeah, I don't know, like 824 when Kaido yells, "Who do you think I am?" If you just look at some of Kaido's the faces and expressions that he makes, it just seems very, very familiar with Harold. Very familiar. But I'm trying to say, like, let's not get ahead of ourselves because sometimes it's just so they're the same. They're the fucking same. It's just the same dude. What the fuck? It's just the same dude. Maybe Oda just didn't want to make a new design. But who is around for this? Who's around for this theory? For the longest time, people thought that, myself included, it was popular to think Katakuri was Kaido and Big Mom's kid. A lot of people believed that. That was a very, very popular theory. Very, very popular theory till finally it got nixed. I think Oda himself nixed it in an interview that he did with like Japanese magazine or YouTubers or something like that. It was a random ass interview that Oda did. That got nixed, and then the more we learned, it was like, okay, that's just not the case. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Continuing on. Yeah, Harold being his dad, that'd be kind of crazy, because then, like, Loki being Kaido's older brother. Yeah, he would be his older brother. Or maybe close to the same. Because think about it like this, like, Big Mom is like 5 years older than Loki. How much older is Kaido? What's the age gap between Kaido and Big Mom? Big Mom age. Kaido age. 30. What? 60s. Fuck, you cannot fucking trust Google's AI shit. It said Kaido's fucking 31. Which means during the Battle of God Valley, he didn't exist. 59. Kaido's 59. Okay, so Kaido would still be younger than Loki. Anyway, Kaido being Loki's younger brother. Man, imagine if you're Hajrudin. How much of a bum must you feel like? If your older brother is Loki and Kaido, and then you're just Hajrudin. And then you go around with the audacity to say that you're going to be the king of the giants. It's just like, dude, go... Never mind. Yeah. Go do something, like, go conquer some island in East Blue or something like that. Anyway, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Bunfagun, thanks for the 7. Morj and Freeman, what do you think Shamrock's next move is going to be? A full-scale invasion of Elbaf, or perhaps targeting Hajrudin instead of Loki? I personally feel like... targeting Hajrudin instead of Loki. I personally feel that what we're set up for is pretty soon Luffy and them getting the key and then heading down to Loki, right? And I think in the process they run into Shamrock. I think that that's what's set up next. There doesn't seem... What I'm liking about Elbaf right now is that there's not a ton of plot lines. Characters have been split up, but not with shit to do. And that's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between splitting everybody up and setting them off on different, like, story threads versus just splitting characters up and maybe allowing for different scenes of character work. Like, if we cut back to Robin and Saul and we get some lore drops, that's amazing. But I think what usually gets me frustrated during One Piece arcs nowadays, post-time skip, is we all get to an island, everybody gets split up, and then everybody's on their own sort of little arc, like, but not even arc, plot thread. And out of, like, 6 plot threads, maybe 1 or 2 are interesting, but we keep cutting back to the others. But none of them really have potential to be fully fleshed out because we have to jump around so much, and so we don't even really get to spend time. I think the Labo phase death game, or whatever, the fucking time that they were searching for all, like, trying to find the traitor, and they all split up into 6 groups, but only for, like, 4 chapters, that was the pinnacle of that, basically. That's not the case right now. So what I'm liking right now is the only things that are happening on the island. There's a feast going on. Cool. Maybe we cut back. Maybe some character stuff for Usopp. Who knows? But feast going on. Other strats occupied. Frankie learning about wood. Robin reuniting with Pell. And then you've just got Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. Luffy, Zoro, and Nami, they're off to see Loki. They've got a key for him probably pretty soon. And then they can run into the bad guys along the way. That is very simple, simple, focused storytelling. There's not much to it. It's what you would get kind of pre-time skip, right? That's what I like to see at this moment in time in the early phases of the arc. I'm already liking Loki as a character. I'm interested, legitimately very interested right now in the mystery surrounding what happened with King Harold and Loki, because they're building it up more and more. The idea of, like, I think Oda's in his bag right now, mystery writing wise. I think setting it up in a way that we understand that Loki's probably not that bad of a dude, but at the same time we understand that he might be somewhat bad of a dude. It's complicated. Then King Harold, all reputation and all of his actions point to him having been a very good dude, but then there's something about him that seems like he may be a bad dude, right? And then this gigantic battle that took place, the amount of bodies that are, littered around the castle, that adds a level of weight to this mystery. It wasn't just some one-off, like, Loki and Harold had some private spat, It just, like, adding bodies and death to the scenario just makes it feel more like, okay, shit, this is some serious shit that went down, and this is the heart of a really, really big, momentous event in Elbaf that we're trying to figure out. Like, this was basically a mini war that just happened, and there's only 2 surviving characters, and one of them is fucking brain dead. And yet, even just the Yarul the bum having a sword through his head, that's a good touch too, because it's just unreliable narrator. Where does this go? I just really love the whole mystery setup right now. Anyway, Bun for Gum, as for Shamrock's next move, I think it's going to depend. I think because they're not able to secure Loki here, I think a full-scale invasion of Elbaf is definitely very, very possible. The Giants are just not whatever they once were, in a sense that they're not going to be able to repel it. Because if you think about it, all the Giants in Elbaf together couldn't stop Loki, right? We found out in retrospect, fucking Shanks stopped Loki. The Giants couldn't even do it. So essentially, the whole nation of Elbaf is weaker than someone like Shanks, right? Meaning, if Shamrock wanted to, assuming Shamrock scales somewhat to Shanks, if Shamrock is as strong or stronger than Loki, let's leave it at that, he can solo all of Elbaf. They really don't need a full-scale invasion. Shamrock could just do it, but it's One Piece, so you need to move the plot along, right? So, I don't know if he's going to be like, okay, I'm just going to subjugate this whole island right now myself, or if they're going to go back, pick up some more God's Knights, show up with the God's Knights. I personally feel like no matter what, with Luffy showing up and throwing a wrench in the works, it will basically be determined the God's Knights will leave and return with a new force in a little bit. I imagine that's going to be the case. Just because you kind of need the plot to take place over some period of time. This would be a good way for Luffy to run into Shamrock, but not in a final battle context. And on top of that, I think we just need a showcase for the God's Knights this arc. Last arc, Egghead, was a showcase for the Seraphim and the Gorosei. Really, Gorosei and Seraphim, right? Those two, right? So right now, arc to arc, we're piecing out, learning more about the world government's forces, because before this, it was the Marines. As it turns out, the Marines are just the outer-facing arm of the world government. Now it's really time to learn about the forces the Celestial Dragons have at play. So, last arc, Egghead, Final Saga's beginning. Right off the bat, Oda's establishing what a threat the Gorosei are, what a threat the Seraphim are, and what they're going to become soon. And then this arc, follow-up arc, it's about the God's Knights, right? So I love the way Oda's doing everything here. Continuing on, Virgil Hawkins, always good to see you, man. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 28 months. That is insane. Thank you for the support. How's Mob Psycho? Also, get back into Haikyuu. You could even watch with your girlfriend. Haikyuu is very popular with women. Plus, you never have to worry about any weird anime shit. That's true. And I could see why Haikyuu is very popular with women. it's a very, very feel good series. I could try. That's actually a very good idea. I could definitely try. Because right now we've had a little bit of trouble finding another good anime that she enjoys. She enjoyed Frieren. She enjoyed Full Metal Alchemist. We are watching Heavenly Delusion, and it's good, and we're both liking it, but there's just lots of really weird anime shit that happens in that one. Oh, she loved Dandadan. We both really enjoyed watching Dandadan. So stuff like that, stuff that strays away from some of the weirder stuff that's more everyone-friendly. Sorry, everyone-friendly that works. Haikyuu could work. That's a good idea. I'm actually going to write that down right now. That's a very good idea. Hold on. Haikyuu works because there's some series that I believe that she'll like that I would like to show her, but she wants to watch things together that I haven't seen. So then it's risky because I'm like, but I haven't vetted this yet, so I don't fucking know if if it's gonna be good. One, I don't know if it's gonna be good, and two, I don't know if it's gonna have weird shit. Right? So that was the issue with Heavenly Delusion, because Heavenly Delusion is good, but it has a lot of really weird shit, and a lot of. It's just a reminder of how pervy anime humor is, because there's multiple scenes in Heavenly Delusion that are just like, in an American context, it's like, oh, this is a really dark, like, sexual assault scene, like, straight up. Like, he's pinning this woman down and demanding that he grope her boobs because she promised him something, okay? But in Japan, it's a comedy scene. It's literally played out as a comedy scene. So she's watching this, and she's just confused. She's like, why is the tone like this? Is this like a really serious development? Like, is this going to shatter their relation? Like, what's going to happen from this? And in my head, I'm just like, no, it's actually just a gag scene. It's just a really bad gag scene. It's just, how do I even explain this? That over there, this type of scene is played for laughs. It's a joke scene. Whereas in US context, this would basically make him like an unforgivable piece of shit, you know? I don't know, but Haikyuu doesn't have shit like that. Anyway, how's Mob Psycho? I'm enjoying Mob Psycho quite a bit. I started season 2. I'm gonna be honest. Season 2 has actually been off to a really, really good start. First episode of season 2 was really good, like just as a standalone episode. I feel like you could show that to someone who's never seen Mob Psycho, and you could communicate why the show's good. Then there were a couple episodes that were a little throwaway. I was just really tired, so I didn't really process them. But now I'm at the part where he's dealing with this psychic that is forcing him to experience life without powers for a second. So I'm just at the start of that, and that seems really interesting. Really enjoy this film. So I'm loving Mob Psycho. I'm happy I started this show. Morj says she would not like Sanji, LMAO. The thing with Sanji is that it's different in that Sanji, she's in One Piece. Like she's in the Alabasta arc. She knows what type of character Sanji is. Two, with Sanji, it's very, very slow because he does not start out that bad. It's very, very slow and gradual. And I think even at its absolute worst, the thing that always holds Sanji back is that, okay, so even at Sanji's absolute worst, the biggest issue with him is that he just is so fucking sexually attracted to women that he will burst out into nosebleeds and stuff when he sees a very beautiful woman, right? That's not technically him he's not doing anything that bad. You know, it's just he can't control himself in the sense that he's if he has a nosebleed or something, it's just pathetic, but it's not like he's doing anything to hurt them. The worst thing that he does is he starts to peep, and that happens more and more later on in the story. I would say it's controlled to some degree, but I would say that there's a solid gap in terms of like how someone could see peeping as funny in like a cartoon context versus just straight up sexually assaulting. Sanji will never sexually assault a woman, ever, because the good thing about Sanji, at the very least, is that his whole number one thing is always protect women no matter what, right? So because he has that as his mantra at number one, there's never going to be a scenario where he's like forcing himself on some girl, right? So that's at least that's the ray of sunshine that we have here with Sanji, okay? So I don't think One Piece delves into that stuff. I think the one scene in One Piece that I can recall that has some sexual assault scenario is it's really just Absalom, and that doesn't go too far. And two, it is clearly portrayed as bad. Like, clearly, it's not some comedy gag bit. It's a pretty dark moment, relatively speaking. And Oda kills Absalom later. So I think that, like, One Piece isn't as bad as a lot of other series in that regard. Anyway, continuing on. Angel Rise, thanks for the 5. I think Shanks' real name is Leaf, like Leif Erikson. It plays along with the Shamrock Leaf. Oh, shit! That's an interesting point. I wouldn't have known who Leif Erikson is without watching Vinland Saga, and you know how fucking crazy it was for me to watch Vinland Saga, and then me and my family went to Iceland this last summer, and in Iceland there's a fucking statue of Leif Erikson, and I almost wanted to say, oh, from the anime, and then I had to recall, no, anime is not, like, real life, the real world exists, and, like, there's actual, this is like an actual famous, legitimate person that Vinland Saga just happened to use. I think that'd be really interesting. Shanks being like Leif Erikson. Because I think that's a cool idea because from my understanding, Leif Erikson was a genuine noble explorer and not a violent individual, right? Again, I'm getting most of my context from Vinland Saga, but also a little bit from history because I did go to Iceland. He wasn't like some Christopher Columbus type, So I think that would fit the idea. Batman for Real says you should look up a show called Odd Taxi. I've seen the first episode a while back. Didn't really hook me. Maybe I should keep going. But I was saying that it could fit the idea of Shanks just because Shanks is kind of like Luffy's ideal understanding of what a pirate should be. Like, oh, it's about adventure and exploring and all of that stuff, not the violent aspects of him. Let me look up Leif Erikson. Is there... Nah. Never mind. There wouldn't be any good portraits, I guess. All right, continuing on. Hold on. Duck20, thanks for the 2. I think Loki is stronger than Shamrock. I don't know about that because I think that... Look, there's two ways that it goes as far as I can tell. Either Shamrock is a Luffy villain or he's a Shanks villain. Like, opponent, I mean. It's one of those two. I think either way, that puts Shamrock outside of Loki's range a little bit. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a tough fight, but I don't think that it would be... I imagine Loki is very, very strong. Everything we're seeing so far establishes Loki is very strong. The only problem with Loki really so far is that all of his feats, his major feats, are against the giants. And every giant we know sucks ass. The only giant who we kind of are beginning to understand doesn't suck ass is King Harold, who might be Kaido's father. We don't fucking know yet. But it's just told. Like, it's stuff that we're being told about, so we have no real scope to scale Loki off of. We have his bounty, but fucking Law and Kid have higher bounties than Loki, so we just don't have a lot to go off of him yet. We have the aura. Basically, with Loki, he's an aura merchant at the moment. He's just an aura merchant because... Luffy got goosebumps when he sensed Loki, right? I still feel like Shamrock, more likely than not, is going to be a bigger deal than Loki. Just God's Knight, head of the God's Knights, that's a huge, huge, huge deal for what Oda's setting up Final War-wise. I feel like I'd put Loki below Shamrock, but I imagine Loki is very strong. If I had to guess where Loki falls right now, I think it would be... Like, I think Loki would beat someone like Green Bull. That's what I would say. I don't think Loki would necessarily be beating Kaido or Big Mom or something like that. Yeah, that's my feelings at the moment. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 5. A long time ago, I predicted that this was Shanks' twin. The next confirmation is if this is Bonnie's father. Elbaf will be centered around the Figar lens. So, the Bonnie's father stuff is officially, really, really, really officially in play now. I need to take some time. I need to think about it. I think that there is one significant thematic aspect of Elbaf that strongly suggests that this could be the case. It depends how much Oda wants to connect here. I think that this could be really, really good. I think this could tie a shit ton of stuff together, especially because it kind of felt... Initially, it felt like, okay, Bonnie, her stuff is being done in Egghead, right? Like, Egghead is kind of Bonnie's arc to some degree, but we got to the end of Egghead and it didn't seem like it went anywhere particularly different. Like, Bonnie was happy she found her father, she'd gained some inspiration from Luffy, her future was undetermined. So if she's to be a Straw Hat, so it seems like if she's to be a Straw Hat or not be a Straw Hat, or just be a tag-along, or just be shipped off to the Revolutionaries, there's still some other step to her story that we have yet to get, right? Because otherwise, why is she still here? So in that light, I'm just thinking, okay, maybe Egghead was just part 1, the setup for her, and then part 2 is really going to be Elbaf, and then in that case, her father being an Elbaf, that could really fit together, honestly. Could really fit together. But nice growth stonks. Good prediction. Sunny Clip, thanks for the 5. Jarl is covering for Loki. He never names him as the one who injures him. Jarl is the only witness, so his word on the fight would be fine. I Sunny Clip, I think I just finished reading Your Voice of the People. I'm pretty sure it was Your Voice of the People that I read, your patron comment. So I know what you're talking about. But why doesn't Jarl then, like, why doesn't Jarl then just vindicate Loki if he's covering for him, you know? I figure Jarl's just supposed to not really know what happened exactly, and maybe fucking Pudding's fruit or something. Not Pudding's fruit. I don't know. Maybe Chopper working on Jarl, like something being done to get the truth out, I think will be a big deal in this arc. Mingo Mango, thanks for the 7. Theory, the other giant tribes are a result of the giants dominating the New World hundreds of years ago. They probably lived by other atom trees. That does tie towards my theory I had about like how Elbaf is where the Void Century War began. So I was excited to hear that little revelation this chapter. I wouldn't be surprised if, as the flooding was getting really bad, giants were the ones who really got to dominate the best spots in the New World. And then as time went on, the Elbaf giants were the ones that really managed to persevere and live on and hold to the atom tree, the big atom tree, the best spot. I think that's a really good possibility. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 5. At the bottom left of the final page of the chapter, it says the Gods Knights have mobilized, which matches the description. Dragon had matching Ragnarok. Yeah. Once the Gods Knights mobilize, as Dragon said, back during the chapter 1088, 86 or something like that, around then, that's when shit gets really real. So I'm excited because I feel like Elbaf, thematic wise, like this is going to be where the war, the final war, really begins. And there's too much to explain in this stream context, but I now feel like we are actually closer to the end of the story than we previously expected. Because I feel like I now understand a little bit better what type of arc Elbaf is potentially set to be. I think it could legitimately wrap in the next 75 chapters, so by chapter 1200. And I think a lot of us, we expect there to be Laughdale, Marijua, like all of these things really spread out. I think for the final arc, Oda has one big final just bum rush planned for the One Piece. And that's like, it's going to be a war. Like, I don't know if it's going to be like arc after arc of like different competing, like, I don't know how to explain it all here, but I think Oda's setting things up in a way that a lot of shit is just going to happen back to back all at once in the final arc. Continuing on. Justin Holland, good to see you, man. Thanks for the 5. Incoming hostilities has Elbaf citizens retrained for battle with help from the Strahts and incoming allies with certain desired reunions and meetings. Justin, that is a phenomenal comment. That's honestly, because like, okay, so I think that this could easily be the little preview into the plot of Elbaf, right? So let me do a paint. Let me do a little quick little Microsoft Paint for you guys. You guys like the Microsoft Paint. They love the Microsoft Paint. You guys can't get enough of this Microsoft Paint shit. I know what gets you guys going. I know my viewers. I know what you guys like. All right, hold on. Here we go. All right. The fuck? All right, there we go. Yeah. All right. So, you guys can see this, right? Okay, so right now we have beginning of arc, right? Hold on. Beginning of arc, training period, final battle. Okay, I think that it might go something like this: beginning / setup, all's cool in Elbaf, right? Everything's nice and peaceful in Elbaf. That's how things are set up at the beginning. Then first point of action that we are heading towards right now, Shamrock encounters Luffy, Zoro, Nami, first fight. I think this is the first point of action. Okay. God's Knights. However that fight goes is however that fight goes. Obviously, Luffy and them don't kick Shamrock's ass because that would ruin the rest of the story. God's Knights leave with promise to come back and take Elbaf. Okay, so this is kind of the fallout of that. And then this is middle section of arc, training, turning Elbaf back into war-ready country, not because peace is bad, but they just need their shit together at the moment. Character stuff for Loki gets, solve the mystery of Harold's stuff. Maybe Shanks return, Usopp stuff, etc. Okay? Nice middle section of the arc. Also, probably lots of cutaways to outside world events like Egghead based on Oda's statements from last Jump Fest. So kind of like an Egghead, in the middle section of that arc where they're doing shit inside the laboratory. They're figuring stuff out. Who's the traitor? It's York, blah, 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 blah. Imagine that section, but actually good, because we get some character stuff. So maybe there's some training. Characters can hopefully get stronger. Who knows? And then we get our final God's Knights return for battle. How do you guys like that? How do you guys like the sound of that? Am I hiding stuff? Here, let me move this shit around. You guys like this? You guys like this? Huh? Does it make sense? How do you guys feel about this? I think that this is a good shot at this being the general storyline of Elbaf. I think there's going to be a lot more wrinkles to it. Again, like if Shanks shows up, what's Shanks doing exactly? Is he just chilling? Do Luffy and the Strats have beef with Shanks over the Bartolomeo incident? We don't know. But I feel like this could easily be the general gist of it. So thanks, Justin. Uchek, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 28 months. Holy shit, man. What an OG. Another dope chapter. Yeah, Elbaf is heating up. And you know what the best part about this chapter is? What's the best part about this chapter? Interesting title, says Morj. What about the Revolutionary Army? In a video that I did, what was it, 2 videos ago? 1 video ago? 2 videos ago, talking about big things coming in 2025 for One Piece. I talked about how I personally believe Oda set things up that we're going to see revolutionaries versus the Blackbeard Pirates at the siege at Marijua. We're going to see potentially Cross Guild and the Marines conflict because they've been fucking talking about that for so long. The Marines have been talking about it. Cross Guild's fucking obsessed with taking down Marines, etc. I feel like that's a conflict we're going to see. Neither of them really have any business in Elbaf at the moment. And then finally, I think we're getting, the God's Knight stuff, Strahd stuff, and potentially Red-Haired Pirate stuff here at Elbaf. So I think that's how I'm viewing the split up forces at the moment. Lord Thesaurus Morj. This is from Mingo Mango. Lord Thesaurus Morgus, thanks a lot. By Theory King, Oda's editor. Thank you, man. I appreciate the kind words. Will Zoro clash with Shamrock if Luffy's conflicted seeing him? We need this to gauge his peak. Ooh, that's a good question. Will Zoro clash with Shamrock? Zoro could see a sword and just go nuts. Be like, I gotta fight this dude. At the same time, like, these are conversations I feel like should be had on the Straw Hat ship, at least off screen. Like, Zoro's got to have talked with Luffy about Shanks at some point. And Luffy's got to have mentioned that Shanks uses a sword. Did Shanks use a sword pre-time skip? I don't fucking remember. Does Luffy know that Shanks uses a sword? I don't know if Shanks ever pulled out his sword in front of Luffy. I don't know. Okay, let's ignore those topics of discussion for the moment. So, we all know where they go. So, Zoro sees Shamrock with a sword. Luffy sees them beating up. I wouldn't be surprised if Luffy recognizes that's not Shanks. At the same time, it's tricky because, like, Luffy saw Sanji's brother or sister and thought that they were Shanks, or not Shanks, Sanji, at the start of Whole Cake. Luffy saw Kaku and thought he was Usopp. I think it would be touching if Luffy sees Shamrock and immediately realizes he's not Shanks, but I don't think it would be good overall because that would suggest that it's only Shanks that Luffy's able to differentiate. Like, he should have been able to know that that's not Sanji then as well. Interestingly, Loki isn't calling that guy Shanks. Why do you guys think Loki is not calling that guy Shanks? Why do you think Loki... Like, so Loki knows? Does Loki just know the truth? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Or maybe it's because he's been hooded for so long. Maybe he's been hooded for so long so Loki never saw his face. Like, just now. I'm saying this is the only moment that he's pulled off the hood. Oh! Shanks' missing arm! Zeckenschwarm says there's no way Luffy forgot Shanks' missing arm. I'm so fucking stupid. Oh, he's blindfolded. He's blindfolded. You're right. You're right. I'm being stupid. Yeah, 2 arms. That's the simple way. Like, to be fair, Luffy saw fucking... Luffy thought that Reiju was Sanji, right? Am I crazy? Let me see. Let me see. I'm not gonna lie, the whole Germa gang, all of Sanji's siblings, they feel like really random ass characters now. Okay, so I'm just gonna say, it's just like Oda said that he initially only planned for Sanji to have one brother, but then he decided to give him like 3 other brothers. I just don't think that shit's necessary. I also don't see that much difference between Ichiji and Niji, but it's whatever. Okay, anyway, now's not the time to be complaining. Yeah, so you could say that Luffy should recognize that Shanks only has 1 arm, and so therefore this character having 2 arms can't be Shanks. However, Luffy did just see a character who had a swirly eyebrow and thought that was Sanji, despite said character having... all female features across the board and different color hair and different facial features, presumably. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Sanji, she's a girl, has to explain Chopper. Then Luffy realizes you're right, I'm just saying. I think that seeing Shanks have an arm would not be the craziest thing comparing to Luffy thinking that Sanji is straight up gender swapped and completely missing that. You know what I'm saying? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. I personally think that we will probably see some... I think it's more important when Luffy, Zoro, Nami encounter Shamrock and Gunko. I think it's more important that we see Shamrock versus Luffy at the end of the day. just because, and if Zoro can get in on it as well, that's awesome. But I feel like Shamrock versus Luffy is a little bit more important just because Luffy scales a lot higher than Zoro at the moment, right? Unless Zoro's using Ashura or some shit like that, right? So if we really want to gauge how strong Shamrock is supposed to be, you kind of have to have Luffy fight him to really get an understanding, you know? Just a skirmish, not a long thing, but I think a skirmish. Continuing on. Dick so small, I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. Kid has a tattoo in chapter 795, page 12, that resembles tattoos on the Giants. What? Okay, hold on. Thank you, Dick so small. 795, page 12, that resembles tattoos on the Giants. Okay, here. Let's see. What chapter? 795. 795. Kid having a relation to the Giants would be interesting, but the thing is that Kid seemed to be surprised when they reached Elbaf. Like, it seemed like a new place to him, you know? It seemed like a new area. Oh, I see the glimpses of the tats. Okay, that's a good point. I'm not going to read too much into this just yet. That's a good point, though. Good point, Dick so small. Dragonfire, thanks for the 5. I saw a theory on Reddit that Elbaf's fruit is just Luffy's fruit and Loki never ate it. Harold died 14... Oh, shit! Harold died 14 years ago. Shanks stole the Gum fruit from the world government 13 years ago. Wait, what? Am I crazy? Wait, what? What? Wait. Did I miss something? I must have missed something this chapter. I thought this all happened like 6 years ago. Am I fucking crazy? What did I miss? Guys, where's the 14 years ago thing? Oh, in the 14... I'm stupid. The chapter starts with that. Okay, hold on. So 14 years since King Harold's death. I missed this. I think I just glossed it over because it said I've been so hooked on 6 years. Okay, so 14 years ago... Oh my god. That changes so much. If Loki has no devil fruit. If Loki has no devil fruit. That's a great theory. Loki has no devil fruit. I missed the 14 years part. The timing is just too coincidental. Loki defeats Harold then. So then is Loki out and about on the run for the next 8 years? Then Shanks defeats him. Guys, walk with me here. Walk with me. All right, I'm going to sound some things out. You guys help me through this, okay? Harold died 14 years ago. So Loki and Harold's duel happens 14 years ago, right? Okay. Loki / Harold's... Let me just do a new one. Okay. Loki / Harold's duel equals 14 years ago. Loki escapes Elbaf. Why did the Giants claim that it took all of them together to restrain Loki? They'd never restrained Loki. Shanks did, right? Loki escapes Elbaf. Gomu no Mi. Shanks steal Gomu Nika fruit. Nika fruit ends up in world government possession. Why'd the font size change? Shanks takes fruit. It ends up with Luffy. Hold on. You guys can see, right? Shanks takes the fruit. It ends up with Luffy. 6 years ago, Loki is just out and about as a pirate during this time. Shanks defeats Loki 6 years ago. Shanks becomes Yonko. So this is the timeline, right? Is there anything incorrect here? Is there anything incorrect here? All right, continuing on. Tell me if there's anything wrong here. Okay, let me move through supers a little faster. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Where are we at? Dragonfire, thanks for mentioning that to me. I totally fucking missed that. L, thanks for the 5. Is Kid mistaking Shanks for Shamrock? And Shamrock actually did something bad to Kid's hometown. And so Kid helps Luffy defeat Shamrock. Kid arc incoming. Look, I think that Kid could easily be important this arc. I easily think Kid could be important this arc. But, and that is a really, really interesting theory. That Kid thought, like, because now there's so many things that could have happened that add to Shanks' reputation in a way that ultimately were never Shanks, right? I've seen some people say that it was the God's Knights, Shamrock, who stopped Kaido during the Marineford situation. I think that can't be true because as far as I know, the Vivre cards are canon, right? Vivre cards state that Kaido was stopped by the red hair pirates. King's Vivre card also said the same thing. So I checked both those things. So at the moment, I feel like that doesn't hold up 100%. But certain other things, yeah, it's entirely possible. Like certain like if Shamrock did something bad to Kid's hometown, Shamrock being a Kid victim, that could be cool. That could be cool. Kid is dead? I don't think so. Shamrock is real. It's just fucking hilarious to me that for so long, the Evil Shanks theory, by myself included, I thought it was stupid for years. Like, the Evil Shanks theory has been a thing. First of all, for those of you who are newer to the community, the idea that Shanks himself was secretly evil was a thing from, like, I don't even know how far back. Like, ever since I started checking One Piece forums. Like, 10 years, at least, there's been theories that Shanks is an evil guy. No matter what he's done in the story, stopping Marineford War, saving Luffy's life over and over, there's always been some niche theories that Shanks is evil. Then the Gorosei scene happened and it was like, oh shit, Shanks is a rat, right? But that was when these new theories spawned, which is that that's not Shanks. This is an evil version of Shanks. I thought those theories were ridiculous for a long time. I thought the Japanese, because it's a Japanese theory. In Japan, that theory got very popular. I was just like, I don't know what the Japanese are smoking, but that's definitely not fucking... There's no evil Shanks. That's just ridiculous, right? For so long, it was just a joke to think that there's an evil Shanks. So long, a joke to think that there's an evil Shanks. And you know what? The truth is, there's fucking 2 evil Shankses. There's 2 of them. We have 2 evil Shankses. One's the fucking newest Gorosei, and the other's the leader of the God's Knights. There were... Like, not only was the ridiculous theory correct, it was correct even in an even more extreme way than people imagined. Like, we're going to be entering the final war, and, like, our fucking top villains are going to be, aside from Emu and Blackbeard, it's, like, fucking Evil Shanks number 1, and then Evil Shanks number 2. That's, like, that is realistically what the One Piece scenario is looking like heading into the final war. If I could go back to tell my past self at Marineford, if my past self was like, hey, Morj, like, I wouldn't call myself Morj, by the way. I'd call myself my real name, obviously. But, hey, future Morj, like, what is the ending of One Piece looking like? Like, what's it looking like heading to the final war? Because all this stuff is set up. Like, Blackbeard's the final villain and everything. And I'm sure, like, the Marines, you got to defeat, like, Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru, all that stuff. Like, them and Blackbeard, I'd be like, listen, man. So, the main villain, it looks like, might actually be this evil god of the world that we never knew about, and he's the ultimate big bad. And I'd be like, what the fuck? And I'd be like, yeah, and his top subordinates are like Evil Shanks number 1 and Evil Shanks number 2. And that's pretty much what the story's looking like at the end. I would be fucking mind, like, you couldn't have... I would never have believed that back then because it made no sense. It would made no sense. It would not have made any sense. Anyway, continuing on. Retro Records, thanks for me, Yonko tier member for 28 months. Hey, Morj, forget Wan analysis. Long Ring, Long Land instead. Will we see Shanks confront Shamrock this arc, or just a Luffy Shamrock clash? So that's one that's a very, very difficult question, honestly, because that's one that I honestly could go either way. I think we will get a Luffy Shamrock clash no matter what. The big question at the moment is Elbaf an arc where Luffy is supposed to get a big extended fight at the end of the day? Or is it supposed to be similar to Egghead, where we will get fights and skirmishes, but ultimately nothing super conclusive because this is all build up for the final saga? To me, it goes one of two ways. If Shamrock is a villain designed for Elbaf, for Luffy to defeat in Elbaf, then that's obviously it. That's the end of the story. Or if Shamrock is supposed to be a matchup for Shanks, then he and the rest of the God's Knights are ultimately being saved for the final war, and we will see the conclusion play out with them in the final war itself, most likely with Shanks defeating Shamrock. I think basically Shamrock, it's a timeline thing. If Elbaf is his arc to be introduced and defeated, it's a Luffy fight. If it's just to set him up and establish him as a villain, kind of like we got for the Gorosei and Egghead, then I think down the line he'll be a Shanks fight. That's my opinion at the moment. That's my guess. Let me give you guys a little poll at the moment. Let me just see. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 900 real quick. Will Shamrock be defeated in Elbaf or Final War? Elbaf, Final War. I'll just say later arc, because depending on interpretation, the Final War's already begun. Or is starting in Elbaf. Or later. Let's start with that. If he's a later villain, I don't see Luffy fighting him. GDN, thanks for the 5. Law and Kid aside, 3 billion is meant to portray a benchmark for top 3 billion is meant to portray a benchmark for top tiers based on the Admirals and Mihawk. Loki is probably low to mid Admiral range. I just don't even... I think so, I guess, but at the same time, it's just like... It doesn't... I'm kind of past a point of... Like, being real, 2.6 bill is just not going to mean that much to me on its own right now. I just don't think it's going to mean that much on its own to me right now. Like, Green Bull has a 3 billion bounty. That doesn't mean that much, you know? Green Bull's obviously strong, but I would view him as, like, the lowest end of what it could be, like, to be an Admiral level, right? I think I'm past the point of viewing bounties as that exciting in the story, or like that like bounties were never power levels, but at least they correlated to certain things. I feel like now we're at a point in the story where I find bounties inherently much less exciting because they are almost nonsensical across the board, in that many of them just no longer even correlate to any sort of logical reason. There is truly, genuinely no reason in the world for Kid to have a 3 billion berry bounty the same as Luffy. There is no reason in the world for Dory and Brogy to have gotten bounty improvements post-Egghead, but not Luffy and the Straw Hats, who are at the center of that whole fucking event. It does not make any sense. I've heard the bizarre arguments that, like, well, it's to not draw attention to Luffy because he's the Nika fruit user. That's like reader headcanon. The world government's been drawing attention to Luffy for God knows how long. If they actually wanted to do that, they just wouldn't even have given him a bounty increase in the first place. It doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, we're not going to give him the highest bounty in the world. We'll just give him, like, the third highest bounty in the world. That'll keep attention off of him. What the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, it just, the bounty system just doesn't make sense at this point. If it did, Robin's bounty would have been 1 billion plus from the beginning of the story. If it did, Law's bounty wouldn't be 3 billion. It would be 5 billion berry, because that's what the Ope Ope no Mi fruit is worth. I just don't give a shit about bounties at this point in time. I don't find the bounty. I haven't found the bounty increases to be enjoyable or there's just no sort of when there's no sort of consistency to them whatsoever, and it just feels like they're just being thrown out. It's just like, why do I even care that Frankie's bounty is this now? Why do I care? Because like he's so much stronger than a lot of and done a lot more than a lot of characters with higher bounties than him, and it's like it's just what am I supposed to feel when I read these bounties at this point? Anyway. Julian says Dorian Broggie was just inflation adjusting, but yeah, it's dumb. I don't think Oda should have ever have brought inflation into the equation. I don't think he should have ever brought inflation into the equation, because even though it makes logical, real-world sense, this is the first time we're ever hearing about it, and I don't know if he thought it all the way through, because if inflation is a thing in the One Piece world, then Roger's final bounty, which was 5.5 billion berry, if adjusted for inflation, God knows what it would be today, like fucking 10 billion or something, which means that like for Luffy to actually top Roger, adjusted for inflation, Luffy's final bounty needs to be like, it can't just be 5.6 billion like a lot of people have been saying. It needs to be something ridiculous now, like 10 billion plus or something, right? If you if you don't adjust for inflation, then it's just like, what does that even mean? Does that mean that Rox died with his bounty being 5 billion, right? That was 20 years before Roger. Like, if you really think about the inflation thing, that was 20 years before Roger. So does that mean that Rox's bounty was, in fact, like, the actual highest bounty out there? Like, think about that, because adjusted for inflation, it should be, like, over 20 years. That probably makes up the gap between him and Roger or him and Whitebeard, right? Okay, so people think Shamrock will be defeated later than Elbaf. All right, so let me throw you guys another question. Yeah, Dorian Broggie's bounties were like 100 years old. I agree. I understand. But Rox's bounty was 40 years ago. Roger's was 20 years ago. So there is still some percent increase that's happening, right? What did Dorian Broggie's bounties increase to over the course of 100 years? Chobby says inflation happened all at once 62 years ago, but it's all good now. Andrew says Brook got his bounty 60 years ago. Exactly. Wait, so are you telling me that Brook's pre-time skip bounty should have been something like 300 fucking million berry? Oda should never have brought inflation into the equation. He just was just like, well, I need some reason to... I think he realized he fucked up with Dorian Broggie's bounties early, because again, One Piece was never intended to be as long as it was. So at the time, 100 million each was a big deal. It was bigger than Crocodile's. But now we're so far in the story that Oda's like, all right, so Dorian Broggie's bounties, they just make no sense at this point. Don Quixote says a cool thing about inflation is that Brook's current 383 million bounty is just slightly higher than his 33 million bounty of inflation plus 50 years. Yeah, that's funny. Will Shanks be defeated, or not Shanks, Shamrock be defeated by Luffy or Shanks? Luffy, Shanks, other. Other, I guess, would be like Kid, something like that. All right, continuing on. Continuing on. All right, let me move a little bit faster. Okay. Tomahawk PWPT, thanks for the 5. Remember, we're just in the WWE hype piece part of scaling Loki. One Piece is more about promos being the fun than the fights, even when the fights are good. Yeah. It's fucking crazy, because, like, I think One Piece hypes fights better than any other series just because it does so much to hype characters and builds them up for such a long period of time, right? So I'll start out by saying that. But it's just the funniest thing in the world because, like, if you look at, like, when Garp was fighting Aokiji, by any other series standards, the fight is almost a nothing. Like, the fight is very, very minimal. Like, we get very, very little action between the two, and even in general, very little action between Garp and the rest of the Blackbeard Pirates. But goddamn, it was exciting. Like, it had the whole community fucking, you're on your edge of the seat reading those chapters, because it's just like, holy shit, Garp and Aokiji are fighting. This is fucking insane. Like, it doesn't even matter how good the fights are. Oda can feed us a couple clashes, and as long as it's between characters that we've wanted to see go at it for the longest time, it makes us happy. GDN, thanks for the 5. Shamrock probably scales to other One Piece contender spread characters, so his floor is like Kuzan and ceiling Shanks. The problem is that in that spread, there are also bums like Sabo. Imagine if Shamrock's level is like Sabo. Like fucking going extreme diff with a barely trying Fujitora. Like that's his floor. But I would agree, like at the end of the day, some characters are there symbolically. Like Kobe has a higher ceiling in my opinion than Sabo. Like potential, but I would obviously assume Sabo is stronger than Kobe at the moment, right? But Kobe's in that spread. Fucking Sabo the bum is in that spread. Like ace at home, you could say. Yeah, I think I don't know. I think Shamrock should be, I think just in terms of significance, Shamrock should be above the average Admiral. You know? Nervan V Maker, thanks for the 20. Holy shit, thank you, man. I think Usopp and Sanji actually extenuate Nami and Zoro's roles. Oh, so this is in response to my more recent video. Usopp seems normal, which I talked a lot about the main trinity of One Piece, which is Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. Usopp seems normal and logical like Nami, but he understands and idolizes Luffy's spirit. That's a really good point. Sanji can rise to Luffy and Zoro's level, but doesn't have the same personal drive. That's another great point. I think, like, let me be very clear, because I've done videos in the past also explaining why really the East Blue 5 overall are the main characters. Like, you can narrow and narrow and narrow, right? So, like, if you want to say who are the main characters of One Piece, my first thing would be the Straw Hat Pirates, right? And then if you're like, okay, but who are really the main characters among the Straw Hats? Then my next response would be East Blue 5. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji, right? I'd say those are the main characters. The story's really generally going to run through them, right? If you pushed me a bit further than that and were like, okay, who's like the main characters of One Piece though? Like who's the real core? Like who's the core characters? Then I would push a little bit further and say, even among the East Blue 5, it's Luffy, Zoro, and Nami, right? Zoro and Nami are just generally going to be a bit more significant than Usopp and Sanji over the course of the story, but the difference is negligible. The difference is negligible to the point that you'd really have to you'd have to do a type of analysis that I did before where I'm really breaking down, okay, what's the core of what Oda's trying to do with most of these storylines, and who are the characters that he almost is never going to forget? And it's like, okay, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, right? And then if you're like, okay, dude, who's the main character of One Piece? It's like, it's Luffy, no question. You can think of it kind of like a pyramid where Luffy, then Zoro, Nami, then right behind them, it's like Luffy, Zoro, Nami's, single most important, Luffy, right? Then if you need a trio, Luffy, Zoro, Nami. Then if you need 5, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji. And then if you need more than that, then you got the whole squad of Straw Hats, right? At the end of the day, the tricky thing is I used to always feel like the Straw Hats are the definite main characters of One Piece. Now we're at a point in the story where I would confidently say Frankie, Jinbei, Brook, Robin, even Chopper, they are not as important as many of the side characters that we have. They are not as important. They're not going to feel like main characters or get as much focus, most likely, in the remainder of the story as characters like some of the characters that we saw in that big Vegapunk spread, you know? Law is already a bigger character in the story than them, right? Law is a bigger character in the story than them. I could see in the final saga, Sabo, Kobe, Shanks, even Dragon overtaking them in terms of significance. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 5. Shanks and Garling will also appear in Elbaf. He's going to bring Uranus, which is also the Emerald City, a city that doubles as a weapon. That is an insane idea. But Uranus would just fucking destroy Elbaf. Like, you would basically have to cave immediately if they pulled out Uranus. That's an interesting idea. It's the ultimate threat. Jade FW, thanks for bringing a Pirate King to your member for 26 months. Yo, Morj, happy Friday. Got nothing big to say, but great chapter. I agree, phenomenal chapter. Here's some random opinions. The Penguin on Max was excellent. The Penguin. I want to watch that. Okay, I got 3 shows. I want to watch The Penguin, Shogun, maybe The Bear, Squid Game Season 2. I got 4 shows right now. Dune Prophecy was not. Oh, okay. Oh, Dune Prophecy, the TV show. Okay. Dandadan manga is the best new shonen in a while. I'm going to hold out till the next season of the anime because it's not that far off. It's coming in June, I believe. So I'm going to hold out till then. And then if I enjoy that so much that I can't wait any longer, maybe I'll be a manga reader. But I'd love first season. Abderrahman Amari, thanks for the 10. Can Loki maybe is blind, so have exceptional observation hockey, and Garling, who actually killed King Harold, not a negotiation to open exchange between Elbaf and world government? Okay, so I'm trying to decipher this, but I get what you're saying. Like, if Loki is straight up blind, maybe you're saying Garling was, maybe he was framed for killing King Harold, so there was something else going on in that big battle that, part of it is Loki. We got a lot of factors, right? So Jarl couldn't see. Loki is blind, so he's having to rely on observation hockey, right? Interesting concept is Shanks is known as the... Holy shit! Everybody wait up. Shanks is known as the killer of observation hockey, right? So let's say Loki is blind. Let's say Loki... Everybody listen up. Okay? If Loki is blind, blindfolded, blah, 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 right? This King Harold situation, whatever played out, Shanks is known as the killer of observation hockey. The killer of observation hockey. If that's a skill that either Shanks' brother or father, like Garling, also seem to have in their back pocket, then if there's this big showdown that occurs between Loki and King Harold, things could have been happening in that showdown that Loki just was not aware of because he straight up could not sense what is going on. That's an interesting possibility. We've got a lot of pieces here. We've got the dead king. We've got oh my god. Because the world government took the fruit. Hold on. The world government took a fruit, right? If the fucking God's Knights were involved, we know the world government wants the Zoan fruit. We know they want the Nika fruit. We know the world government wants the Nika fruit. We know that there's some missing pieces around Loki and Harold's duel. So many, no witnesses, shit ton of dead bodies. Only witness remaining has a sword through his head, so brain damage. Loki is yelling about some shit. He's not going to be he doesn't want to speak on the subject, right? And we know that after this incident, shortly after, we know that the world government had a fruit in their possession, the Nika fruit. Could the world government have swooped in? This is what I talked about in my God's Knights video. God's Knights came in, killed King Harold video, right? In that video, I theorized that Loki did actually end up eating the fruit. But what if he didn't? What if the God's Knights actually succeeded in killing King Harold and taking the fruit? It's possible that if Loki's observation hockey was shut off in some way by Shamrock or Garling's ability, then Loki is just blind, raging bull, trying to find whoever killed his father. To the other giants, it looks like Loki's killed his father. Loki's out there swinging, taking out all these giants left and right. The world government's already gotten away with the fruit. Shit. This is a lot. I gotta think about this. This is interesting shit. Monte, thank you for the 20. Notable, Shamrock's leader title is different than Garling's Supreme Commander title. Applies to both languages. Supreme Commander versus Leader. Used for unit commanders in military context in Japanese. Shit, so he may not be the actual leader, new Supreme Leader of the God's Knights. So we might have somebody else. Is there another Garling that we don't know about? Or for Garland? That'd be fucking insane. Dimian Wright, welcome to the Yonko. Thanks for joining. Make sure to look out for my weekly podcast. It comes out every Tuesday after the Tuesday video drops. Thank you for joining. Alex McFadden, thanks for the 2. It's still possible Shanks met the Gorsai. It's technically possible, but highly unlikely. Sid P, thanks for the 2. Where is Wano analysis, bro? It's been 3 years. I'm gonna try and work on it this Sunday, man. I'm tired of I shouldn't even respond because it's just well, what if I don't then? I shouldn't even respond. I should just stop until it's done or on the finish line of being done. I should just not say anything. Jack had some memos. Thanks for the 10. Seems more and more like King Harold was trying to make a deal with the world government and Loki killed him for it. I wonder if the world government made Harold rip his horns off. don't know if you guys can hear, but dogs are barking. King Harold was trying to make a deal with the world government and Loki killed him for it. I don't know if that's the answer either. I think that's totally possible, but at the same time, the problem with King Harold is that he straight up made Elbaf a better country. He straight up made Elbaf a better country. He brought civilization, education to them. It's good that there's a... He fucking commissioned Saul to start a school in Elbaf. That's a good thing. Saul used to say that the Elbaf warriors are too barbaric. He doesn't want to go there. It's good that they have a library. It's good that they have a public school system, right? It's good that they're learning and shit. You could argue that it may not be good when it comes time to fight and like defend their land, and neutering the nation of warriors is bad. But I don't know if it's like... I don't know if Oda's ever going to portray a king that aimed to do all this stuff as evil. Like, you can go back to Riku's conversation with Pika, and it kind of spells out that what a king really needs to be is not strong and not military-minded, but just peace-loving and looking to foster a warm, loving nation. And that's ultimately what King Harold did. So it's kind of like, well, if he did all that, but he was evil, it's like, how, oh my god, his master plan. He fucking made the whole country 1,000,000 times better. And I'll just do that for the next 100 years. I don't know, man. Duck20, thanks for the 2. BTW Chainsaw Man sucks. Genuinely regret reading. All right, well, you're in a minority there, man. Carnage, thanks for the 2. Hey, Morj, do you think Shamrock hates Shanks? Thanks for your first super ever. I think the relationship between the two is going to be one of the most interesting things in the story. I don't know if Shamrock hates Shanks. I just don't know. He might straight up be indifferent. The Celestial Dragons just view everybody that's not a Celestial Dragon as beneath them. And remember, Shanks is no longer a Celestial Dragon. It's very clearly established from Doflamingo's story that if you choose to live life as a pirate, you lose Celestial Dragon privileges. They no longer view you as a Celestial Dragon. They call you a mortal. They say you have no place in Morjua. That's it. You're done for. It's over. I don't know if Shamrock hates or feels any strong feelings towards Shanks. It might just be something like straightforward, like, oh, Shanks, that fucking like the fucking, you know, deserter or fucking like black sheep of the family or something. Like, we just don't talk about him. Maybe kind of like Sanji's brothers viewed him. Like, they just stopped thinking about him. Like, I don't think they had... Like, they liked to bully him a lot when he was around. I don't think Shamrock or Shanks would ever have that relationship because they never grew up together. But, like, I don't think they thought about him much in general once he flew the coop, you know? I don't think that... I imagine Celestial Dragons, they view themselves as gods. They're like, oh, there's a black... He's not really a brother, though. He's just some bum that roams around the seas playing pirates or whatever. Meek, thanks for the 5. This chapter makes me realize for the umpteenth time that the Whitebeard pirates really had no chance in Marine Ford, LMAO. They had absolutely no chance, considering they weren't even fighting the world... They weren't even fighting the Celestial Dragons, right? They were fighting, like, the security guards stationed outside the Pentagon or something like that. That's pretty much close to what they were fighting. They were fighting, like, the most frontward-facing, like, just the... I don't even know what to say. It's like if you get to Skypiea and you're fighting the white berets, whatever you call them, right? That's who you're fighting. It's like you're not fighting Enel and his priests and God's army or shit, all that stuff. That's over there. That's totally different shit. That's big boy shit. You're fighting fucking Hesso, the Hesso dude, and the white berets. But at the same time, you got to remember that the big thing is that the Whitebeard Pirates never came in really expecting to win, I don't think. They came in with just the goal of saving Ace. And I think the goal of saving Ace was always a doable goal. That was always a doable goal. I think just trying to get Ace in and out of there, like a rescue mission, that was always doable. The idea of it being a war, in retrospect, it was just them like they were never going to win that war. I think the one ace in the hole they had was Whitebeard himself. Because the fruit that he had, as explained at the very beginning, it's just such a busted fruit that it can really, really wreak havoc on... Like, a battle at sea, it can wreak havoc on So many of the enemy's forces, so much of the landscape, you can just fuck up the whole geography of where you're at, right? With the Guruguru no Mi. I mean, like, remember Roger and Shiki, their battle at Edwar, that was a battle that Roger got out of thanks to the environment. Like, at the end of the day, you can't really beat the ocean, and Whitebeard can fuck up the ocean really, really fucking bad. Like, if Whitebeard was hardcore dedicated to just sinking Marine Ford, and he was in his prime, like, I'm not saying in 1v1 combat, or like, I'm not saying Whitebeard himself can just solo everybody, but I'm saying if his goal was just like, as Sengoku announces at the beginning of it all, Whitebeard has the power to destroy the world. That's an exaggeration in my opinion, or it might be tied to something Red Line related or whatever, but it gets at what Whitebeard's real threat is, which is ultimately, if he really is committed to just like kamikazeing, fucking over everything at Marine Ford, he can do a lot. He could cause a lot of fucking chaos right there. And he possibly could like die just trying to sink the whole island or something. So that's why Whitebeard's always going to be a problem. That's why he's called the man who shakes the world. That's why you got to remember, post-Marine Ford, there were earthquakes and tsunamis all across the One Piece planet, right? Like, so just because they always had Whitebeard at the core of it and the ability that Whitebeard had, there was always a shot that they could cause so much damage, Whitebeard specifically could cause so much damage, that it would be a very messy ending, right? Maybe Ace wouldn't have escaped, but they'd be all dead or something like that, you know? The problem, ultimately, that was really highlighted, it wasn't even about the mismatched forces, because the Marines were obviously way more stacked. It was Whitebeard himself wasn't in the shape that he would be able to commit to doing something like that overall, you know? Continuing on. Nerve and V-Maker, thanks for the 5. Let's take a moment to appreciate that with Shanks, Garling, and now Shamrock roaming the seas, we have three potentially swordsmen stronger than the world's strongest swordsman. None of them are stronger swordsmen than Mihawk. We're not getting into that shit. No one's baiting me into that shit. We're leaving that alone. None of them are stronger swordsmen than Mihawk. Mihawk beats them all in a sword fight, including coding hockey on swords, obviously, you know? It's a given. Dare Boppler, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for a month. Do you think physical strength matters for people with advanced hockey? Luffy clashing evenly with Kaido kind of bugged me. What even are the benefits? Yeah, the benefits of physical strength kind of just taper out once hockey really becomes a thing. It also makes me question a few things. Like, if we're at a point where it just... Because Luffy and Kaido aren't even touching, right? They're not even touching. It's just the hockey that's exuding out of them. So if we're at that point, then like, why does Kaido being in his Zoan form even matter? Does it boost his strength? He's not physically hitting anyone with his fists. It's still just the hockey that's coming out of you. Maybe the physical force that's behind the punch also matters to some degree. Because like, I guess if hockey's like an invisible armor, right, then how hard you're pushing that armor still matters, I suppose. There's got to be some reason the battleship bags and shit mattered too. At the end of the day. Doggy Floofy, thanks for the 2 and thanks for your first super ever. Who has horns? Ties to / part ancient giant? I feel like the Oni race is an off... So, I always viewed the Buccaneers as being some offshoot race between giants and humans, so I just imagined it was just giants that got freaky with humans, or vice versa. The tricky thing was just that Colin throws things off, because Colin seems to be normal sized compared to the other giant kids. There is the catch that maybe it makes a difference what if it's the mother or the father that's having it. So, like, for example, if you're... Like, Ripley is Colin's mom, and then unknown dude is Colin's dad. So maybe in those cases, the child will be normal giant size. Maybe the mother's genes win out. On the flip side, maybe if it's, what do you call? The man is the giant, and the woman is just a normal, poor, normal human woman. Maybe the man's genes win out. I just can't even imagine what that... You gotta be such a fucking nasty woman to want to have sex with a giant. I just feel like you can't lie. There's no love there. You're a nasty one. If you just see a giant man and you're like, I want to, like, if she, like, how does sex even, is she literally, this is going to get graphic, so children, run away. Would it just end with her literally covered? Like, literally just covered. Is that how it ends? Is that how it ends? Like, what is it even? I can't imagine there's any penetration involved, right? I can't imagine there's any penetration, but at least with how it finishes, like, I don't know. You got to be a nasty woman for that to happen. Maybe that is how it works, though. So maybe if the mom is a human and the dad is a giant, then it comes out half-sized because a female woman, a human woman can't actually give birth to a giant-sized baby, right? So, but normal human women can give birth to gigantic-sized babies because we saw, or like semi-gigantic, like 50% gigantic-sized babies because we saw how that worked with Big Mom, you know? Cups is Toki and Odin, LMAO. So Toki and Odin is still in the realm of just being like a really, really tall dude. Like just being a really, really tall dude, you know? Odin is still in that realm where it's like, okay, we can just pretend that this makes sense or whatever. But the giants, it's not like that. The giants, it's just like, if you want to fuck a giant, you are just like an extreme Olympic level gooner. That's just the way it is. If there is a flashback where we see King Harold and some human woman, and this is like Kaido's mom, Oda better not try to write any love in there, because none of us are buying it. We're just like, this woman is a freak. What is wrong with her? This woman is a freak. Anyway, continuing on. The Black Blur, thanks for the 10. Chances that Loki will die? Loki is Hadruden's bro. If Loki were to die, then Hadruden should be the next king of Elbaf. This ruins the God's Knight's plans, as Hadruden is already part of Luffy's fleet. Holy shit! The Black Blur just put some shit together. So I am of the opinion that Loki dies. I've been of the opinion that Loki dies for some time now. Okay? I think his story is set up perfectly to be a tragic hero type figure. I think Loki dies. Now, Hadruden should achieve his dream. He should become the king of the giants. That also suggests that Loki dies. Right? Hadruden being under Luffy's fleet brings Elbaf under Luffy's fleet, as you just said, which it all fits together because we do imagine that Elbaf and the Giants will be on Luffy's side come the final war. A lot of shit clicks in place with that. At the same time, Loki could not die and just like head out and do his own thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't have to die, technically speaking. He could just abscond from the throne. But it is a possibility. Good point, Blackler. Ground Pound, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 13 months, man. Thank you for the long time support. It is important to mention that Shamrock was the man depicted in 1121. I think I'd be pretty disappointed if he got defeated in Elbaf, to be honest. I would agree. At the same time, to me, that suggests that I would agree. I think that you're talking about the Vegapunk speech spread, right? Let me double check. That's the chapter you're talking about. I would agree that's disappointing. At the same time, it's just like it's probably set to be a long arc. Like 75 chapters, in my opinion. I agree it would be disappointing if he loses here. It's kind of like, what's the point? Like, all this build-up for Evil Shanks. We've been getting little hints of an Evil Shanks for so long. All this talk of the God's Knights. And then the leader of the God's Knights just loses the same arc he's introduced. I can't think of another character. Like, any major... You can have really cool villains that are introduced and given sufficient hype and impact and everything like that, and have them go down in the same arc. It's just rare in One Piece. The only time I can really think of that is Lucci. That's the only time I can really think of that. You could argue Enel and Gecko Moria as well, but I think neither of those are really, fan favorite villains, whereas I think people really, really enjoyed Lucci throughout Enies Lobby a lot. I think people like Enel, and I think people like Moria fine, but this is just my observation. I might be wrong. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 250, because we're almost there. I think Lucci went down as one of the coolest villains in One Piece just because he brought a very different vibe, and he pushed Luffy so hard, and ultimately he was really, like, Enel was kind of a joke villain by the end of it because we saw, how humiliated he was when he couldn't just coast by on his powers and everything like that. And Moria, I think, like, the story itself kind of rags on him with, like, the government basically saying that this guy's too weak to be a Shichibukai. How do we let this one slide? So overall, I feel like, yeah, Shamrock might just be too... Lucci's the only other example. So if Shamrock is introduced in this arc and then defeated in this arc by Luffy, for it to be satisfying in any sort of way and, like, not feel like he's just a... Oda's got to do a lot. Oda's got to put in a lot of work to hype up this character and make us feel like, holy shit, like, this character really, really left an impact, even if we're not with him for that long. King of Lightning disagrees. I'm not trying to say Enel wasn't strong. Enel was very, very strong. He was the strongest. I still maintain Enel was he's the strongest villain from pre-time skip that they had to fight. It's just portrayal-wise, he was kind of a gag by the end of it. Ramen Stains, thanks for the 5. Big as Law has been in the story, do you think his crew would get more focused? Do you think characters like Jean Bart have a place in the final war? So, I actually dropped a theory about this some time back, talking about kids featuring the story. I personally think that we are heading towards... So, keep in mind also, a lot of Yonko crews parallel each other, right? Symbolically, in terms of construction, what they represent, things like that. I dropped a video on that a little bit ago as well. Whitebeard Pirates, Big Mom Pirates, Red-Haired Pirates, Beast Pirates, Strahd Pirates, Blackbeard Pirates, Cross Guild. I think it's very, very possible that we get one final addition into the hierarchy of power in One Piece, which is, I think that we could see a more long-lasting Kid Pirates, Heart Pirates alliance. I genuinely think that's a strong possibility, and I think there's a lot of things that suggest that, and I think Oda basically soft-launched that idea in the Wano arc, with Kid and Law having to work together to fight Big Mom. I think Kid and Law having an alliance, much like Cross Guild has an alliance, would make a lot of sense, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they end up picking up another character like Yuruj or something like that to round it out a bit more. So I think that might be why the Heart Pirates are relatively weak and kind of left behind as well, because I think it may not matter at the end of the day, because if there's a union of groups at the end of the day, I think Kid with Killer, Law having at least Beppo with Sulong form and stuff, I think that's a good enough setup. Finer Heiner, thanks for the 12. I'm never able to catch a stream because I'm European. Well, congrats. Thanks for tuning in. I don't have a problem with Shamrock, but Shanks meeting with the Gorsei was really interesting, and the payoff for that is kind of dead now. It was an interesting setup that ultimately didn't really go anywhere, but I personally find the actual truth behind it to be more exciting, even. Simply because I felt like with Shanks meeting with the Gorsei, I thought at the time it was just Oda just teasing or getting us hyped. Most of us thought that Shanks was probably just talking about, I'm here to talk with you guys about a certain pirate. And most people thought, okay, it's only so many fucking options. Either he's talking about Luffy, or he's talking about Blackbeard, or maybe fucking Kaido. There's not that much that was... Like, none of those would be a crazy interesting possibility. It felt to me kind of like it's cool to see Shanks talking to the Gorsei. And there is some level of mystery to that. But at the time, the level of mystery was kind of just like, okay, well, which pirate is he talking about? And it felt like there was only so many options. And it just felt like there wasn't that much more that could be revealed about that scenario. So it was just kind of like, okay, it's a cool scene, and it hypes Shanks up, like, it has mystery around him a little bit. But I feel like it's not going to go anywhere that mind-blowing. The actual reveals about it all are, to me, this is... Like, we're sitting here... If you told me a few years back that in the final arc, two of our biggest villains are Evil Shanks number 1 and Evil Shanks number 2, that would be fucking insane. Like, we have to fight 2 Evil Shankses. That's insane to me. That's a huge problem. TDM9, thanks for the 2. Is disarming Elbaf a comment on Japan post-World War II? That's an interesting idea. I'd never heard of that, just because Elbaf doesn't seem thematically tied to Japan in any way. For example, with Wano, with its isolationism and everything like that, you could see clear ties to Japan, in terms of like Oda making a statement on what Japan should push towards, I think. But With Elbaf, I don't know if that's supposed to be a direct tie. I think we need to wait and see and let the ideas of Elbaf play out a little bit, because Oda's got to play the line very carefully here to not contradict previous themes of previous arcs in terms of like what should be the focus of an ideal nation, you know? Because it's characters like Crocodile or Doflamingo who talk about the ideal nation should be one made of extreme military might. That's what they talk about, you know? That's not the case with these guys. Oh, so people are saying that Luffy will defeat Shamrock more likely than Shanks. Interesting. But more people vote, and a lot of people voted other. But what's interesting to me is I feel like a lot of people voted that Shamrock would be defeated outside of the Elbaf arc. So I just don't know about that, because then that's giving Luffy almost too many significant matchups. Like 70% of people said Shamrock won't be defeated in Elbaf. In that case, it's like, okay, then when's Luffy going to fight him? Because you're getting into the final arc, final war, and it's like, okay, well, Luffy's going to fight Blackbeard, potentially Emu, potentially Akainu, and now potentially Shamrock as well. Like, we got to cut some of these characters out of the equation, right? Skylar H, thanks for the 5. Hi, Morj. Whoops. I'm thinking Loki witnessed Shamrock murder his father and wanted Shanks' help hunting the God's Knights. Then Peacekeeper Shanks refused. I don't know about that. There's also a significant time gap there. I do think that it's very possible that the God's Knights were involved in Harold's death, because it happened 14 years ago, shortly before the Devil Fruit situation. Phil Leotardo, thanks for the 5. I'll tell you one thing, and I'm not ashamed to say it. My estimation of Draco Mihawk as the world's strongest swordsman just fucking plummeted. I don't think Shamrock is beating Mihawk in a sword fight. I don't think so. Mike Owoye, thanks for the 5. Could it be possible that there is 3 Devil Fruits that can achieve Nika level that span across Logia, Paramecia, and Zone, and Loki's horns are real? Loki's horns could very well be real just because his fathers are. As for... interested. No, I feel like it wouldn't make sense for 3 to be Nika, because like imagining yourself as having Nika powers, that's got to be a Zoan fruit, right? It just has to be a Zoan fruit as far as I can imagine. I've seen some people argue that the Yami Yami no Mi might be the other version of the Nika fruit, which is an interesting possibility. Travis, thanks for the 10. Do you think the Burn Scar Man is Shamrock or some lower ranked God Knight, or was the world government just a connection, just a red herring? It being Shamrock seems less likely now that we see no Burn Scar on him. I think it's still very possible that Shamrock has burns on his body, just because a lot of things line up, such as, for example, the implication that Garling's children were at God Valley, where there was a lot of fire going around. There's a lot of other stories set up that strongly suggest that the man marked by flames was the mysterious member that we were seeing in the spread as well. I think let's wait and see if Colin's father doesn't turn out to be the man marked by flames. If Colin's father does not turn out to be the man marked by flames, then we got some shit on our hands, you know? Then we got, all right, God's Knights. I would not be surprised if Shamrock has the burn scars, like, all over his torso or something like that. Like, keep in mind, Lucci's scars were all over his back, you know? I think we just got to wait and see. Otherwise, it might be another God's Knight that we have yet to see. But Colin's father is now back in the running as a solid possibility. It's just that no matter what, it has to be someone tied to the Elbaf arc, because we're at the fucking end of the story, right? Like, the final road poneglyph has to click into place here so we can start the actual finale of One Piece, which is getting to Laugh Tale. Carnage, thanks for the 5. I think Shamrock might catch Luffy off guard and end up defeating them with the Silhouette guy. I think Scopper coming to the rescue. Even if it's Scopper, it's just like, look, if anyone that can, like, defeat Luffy, I don't think... We can assume Scopper is weaker than Rayleigh, right? I don't think Rayleigh right now would have any shot in hell if, like... I think Zoro would have a better shot at helping Luffy out at this point in time than even Rayleigh, if Luffy's in trouble. And Zoro's right there. Scopper helping out could make sense, though. It would be a good way to introduce him. It would just be kind of wild, because it's like... We should be well past the point where Luffy needs to be saved from situations like that. And it's just like... If Shamrock is as strong as we think he is, if he's roughly Yonko level, comparable to Shanks, whatever, or at least above Admiral, I don't think Scopper should be able to do jack shit against him right now. Maybe it's like a minor intervention, like helping out a little bit. Anyone can help in a clash or whatever. Chinho Wong, thanks for joining again. It's been a while. Thanks for joining as a member. JP, thanks to the 10. Hadrudin is definitely an Odin analog. Odin and Loki aren't full brothers in Norse mythos. Oh, Odin, like Odin in Norse mythology, not our Odin. His attack in Dressrosa was Gungnir. He's going to grow into an Odin-like figure. But Hadrudin's not that strong. Are we sure that Harold's not an Odin-like figure? Hadrudin sucks. Hadrudin is literally about Ideo level, from what we've seen. Odin and Loki aren't full... I think you're talking about Odin, like Thor and Loki, right? Thor and Loki aren't full brothers in Norse mythos. So maybe a Hadrudin is a Thor analog? Stormfox, thanks for the 5. I'm so glad we're moving away from everyone having a Zoan fruit. Arrow fruit for the win. I thought the arrow fruit was kind of dumb at first, but now it seems like if the concept is genuinely her attacks can't be stopped once she's, like, forecast them, that's a really strong ability. I also wonder, just from like the setup we seem to be getting, if we're going to see Luffy clash with Shamrock and Zoro clash with Gunko. Zoro fighting a woman? I don't know, that'd be kind of wild. It's rare. Chino Wong says Zoro's cutting Shamrock. Oda's been drawing Zoro a lot. I don't think Zoro's going to cut Shamrock right off the bat, just because at this moment in time, Shamrock needs to be hyped, right? If you introduce a big bad villain and the first thing that happens is like they get used to hype up like Zoro or Sanji or something, or Luffy again, it kind of defeats the purpose, you know? Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Si vis pacem parabellum. I don't know what that means. I'll look that up in a second. Strahd versus Red-Haired Pirates kills many birds with one stone before the final arc battle. I do still feel like Strahd versus Red-Haired Pirates as a conflict in this arc makes a lot of sense. Strahd fleet, Zoe, Wano, Vivi might come aid. If Elbaf turns into a hub for the final war to kind of begin, then I could see a lot of things congregating around Elbaf, because Elbaf is such a gigantic island, it's just perfect for it. Let me see what you typed in Latin. Si vis... Oh, what does this mean? If you want peace, prepare for war. Oh, that's a great saying. Yeah, interesting. If you want peace, prepare for war. I guess that's kind of maybe the trajectory we're on here. Grizzly Adams, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 17 months, man. Given the new information about King Harold, do you think that Loki's horns are actually a natural part of his helmet, or also does Hadrudin have horns that he hides? I think it can vary depending on... Let me look at Loki again, because I did just say that I think he's got him legit. But at the same time, it's hard to tell with some of these characters, like Ulti, page 1. Let's see. I think they might be legit. Maybe they're legit. I don't know. Maybe they're legit. I'm going to lean towards they're legit at the moment. Because Luffy's horns, they just come up straight up from the side and go up. It's clearly a hat. Loki's, it's like an interesting shape. So it might be legit. Hadrudin not having it could just mean that it's a gene thing that's passed on, or maybe, you know, it depends. If it was always passed on, then the genes wouldn't really have died out, right? Antoine Richardson, thanks for the 5. I am going to skip your comment, though. For understandable reasons. Finer Heiner, thanks for the 249. How will the Gods Knights fit into the Gorosei? I think that the Gods Knights and the Gorosei... Like, ultimately, the Gorosei are meant to be the political decision makers, and the Gods Knights are the Celestial Dragons' military. It just so happens that the Gorosei are also extremely strong themselves, because it appears as though the system is that if you have a long tenure of good service as a Gods Knight, you eventually get promoted to Gorosei, right? So it's kind of like, I guess you could say it like this, right? It feels as though the Celestial Dragon system is, Gods Knights are, how do I say this? Gods Knights are the soldiers of the world government, right? Gods Knights are the running soldiers of really soldiers of the Celestial Dragons. They're the best soldiers of the Celestial Dragons. Best soldiers of the Celestial Dragons, the most accomplished Gods Knights, likely the leaders or commanders or whatever, who are particularly great in their era, get immortalized and added to Emu's personal cabinet. and they get to be essentially eternal commanders for, or not eternal, but like, because they do eventually get swapped out, but long-running commanders for an extended period of time. So they kind of get like if you do well enough as a God's Knight, it seems as though you get locked. You get locked into a Gorosei spot, and there's only so many Gorosei spots, just 5, and they rotate over time, right? So the God's Knights are kind of the immediate soldiers, and the Gorosei are the ones that have been immortalized over time, so they get to continue making decisions, right? So if you have a good enough tenure, then Imu's like, okay, this dude's legit. You get to be in charge of this shit for like a long period of time. And then at some point, maybe it's time to kick out a Gorosei. There's some new God's Knights that are doing really, really good. They get bumped into the Gorosei spot. I have a feeling that right now, just based on the fact that Garling has so much more aura and hype than the rest of the Gorosei and the way he's being presented and the role it seems like he's set to play, and the fact that he was one of the 12 in Imu or Vegapunk's spread, Figarland Garling is likely the strongest God's Knight that they've had in God knows how long, right? God knows how long. And I wouldn't be surprised if his son, Shamrock, is in that same vein. Like, they're all going to be probably comparable to Shanks in some way. So, basically, this era, it's kind of the same way that it just so happens. Like, this era, if you think about it, of the last 40 years or so, has just been an abnormally strong era across the board, right? Because the way the wheels of fate are turning is that everything's coming together for a huge climactic changing of the world, right? So strong characters are popping up all over the world. So not only is it like Roger, Rox, Whitebeard, these are like Kaido, Big Mom Shanks, like this huge surge of really, really strong, like Dragon, Garp, this huge surge of really, really strong characters all over the Blue Sea, all coexisting in the same era at once. The same thing's happening upstairs with the Celestial Dragons, where like it just so happens that the strongest Celestial Dragons that they've had in centuries are all like they're being born into the Figarland. Like there's just a surge right there as well. So the Figarlands are being born, or this current generation of Figarlands is just insane. Like an insanely strong Figarland Garling was born, and then he had 2 sons who were also insanely strong, right? So just across the board, everywhere you're looking, you've got really strong pirates popping up. You've got really strong Marines popping up. You've got a batch of really strong God's Knights popping up. And so all of that kind of is making this just the strongest era overall, fitting for a final war. Dare Boppler, thanks for the 2. Stream idea, tier list on ways to get strong in One Piece. The easiest way is just be like Law, be shitty at hockey, shitty at everything, just eat a strong fruit, and act like you're tough. But that is... the hardest way is obviously hockey. The problem is there's only so many ways, right? It's just like devil fruit, hockey, Germa genes, I don't know, like Lunarian DNA or whatever, like just be made in the lab. It's probably the easiest one. That's no offense. Sanji obviously had to train. I was thinking more along the lines of like, okay, how are the Seraphim made? Okay, that's probably the easiest way, like being just cooked up in a lab, right? JP, thanks for being a supernova. Was for so long, 22 months, man. Was Onigashima one of these other giant nations? I feel like whatever giant, like a really, really fucking like ancient times level giant, like maybe the first king of the giants or something, like the one that conquered the New World or something, was the one that was at. It's so much is being revealed right now that it's really, really hard to piece it all together. Because the tricky thing is there's so many lore reveals happening, and then there's like general story reveals happening in terms of like, okay, what's the truth between Loki and Harold's death? How does that play into the Nika fruit and everything that happened there with the world government and Shanks' history and potentially Shamrock's history and how that all clicks into here? There's too many things happening right now. Too many things. In a good way, obviously. Sean Easton, thanks for the 5. Can chat vote on adding Bean Boozled Beans to the redeem list? It's just not big enough of a deal. Here, let me do this. Let's do the vote, though, because we got a good number of people. Let's do a quick vote on our late penalties. Let's do a quick vote on our late penalties in terms of whether or not you guys, because you guys are all here right now, do you guys want to cash in on anything? We'll take a 30-second break to look at this. Do you guys want to cash in on anything? These are the late penalties. This is your current point total. These are the things you can cash in on. Once you cash in points, they're spent. Once you've spent 116 points, you need to start from 0 again, right? So if you want to spend 75 right now, you can spend 75. If you want to keep saving them, you can save them. But any points you spend are gone, so the counter is kind of resetting. You see what I'm saying? You spend 75, you're down to like whatever it is, 40 or something like that. All right? You guys got to decide. I'm never doing a hot chip challenge. You guys want to hear a funny story about the one chip challenge? Okay, so this would have been 2 years ago. My friend group here, no, I guess 2.5 years ago now. Time fucking flies. Do we cash in points? Am I screen sharing? Yeah. 2.5 years ago. I can't multitask well. 2.5 years ago, so my friend group here, people wanted to do the one chip challenge. So everybody in the group chat who was willing to do the one chip challenge was like, I'll do it. So the person who organized it, she basically went out and bought several of the one chip things, right? And when we got to it, right, it just sounded so much fun and so exciting on the, like, initially. It was like, okay, we'll do it. And then it was like a Tuesday night, and we're all hanging out, and we're like, okay, it's time to do the one chip challenge. And we're like, okay, we're gonna film it and everything. And then as the one chip challenge is approaching, I'm like looking stuff up, and I'm just like, wait, this is like really bad. This is like brutal. This is stuff that fucks up people's insides for days potentially, or at least the next day you are going to be not good, not in a good situation. Okay, everyone's waiting. All right, cool, good stuff. I guess we can stop this. Yeah, you are not going to be good once you have the one chip challenge, right? So I was just looking at this and I was like, everyone's excited to do this. It was me and 4 other people who had agreed to do this. Okay, me and 4 other people, and and basically I was just like, wait, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just not gonna do it. It was, first of all, it was a large group, and 4 of us had wanted to, or 5 of us had wanted to do the one chip challenge, myself included, right? So it was a large group, and then I was just like, I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna do it. I paid for my chip still, so it wasn't a wasted chip, but I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. This doesn't sound fun. And then it was like, what the fuck? No, you have to do it. You got to do it. I'm like, no, this doesn't sound fun. I'm an adult person, and I don't want to wake up tomorrow just feeling absolutely terrible on a Wednesday when I have to work just because people wanted to thought it would be fun to do a chip. I still paid for my chip, so nothing was really lost there, right? So it was like, okay. And then as soon as I quit, another girl quit. So then that was out the window. So then it's only 3 people doing the one chip challenge. And so the other 3 people do the one chip challenge. 2 of them immediately regret it, are immediately on our side because it is actually fucking brutal just watching it. It is painful watching it. They go for ice cream and milk. One of them goes for ice cream, one of them goes for milk, and one of them spitting up in the sink and everything like that. And it is painful. It is not worth doing the one chip challenge because they're going to feel that shit tomorrow. Except for one of my friends who currently lives in Japan, actually. He actually is freakishly good at taking spicy things, so he had the chip, was fine, and actually just to flex, he had one of our leftover chips, one that the 2 of us didn't have. And that was kind of insane. I think that was something that he could have posted online and just been like, I had 2 chips in the one chip challenge. I thought that was kind of insane. But anyway, that's my relationship with the one chip challenge. I was like, this is dumb. I'm not doing this. Anyway. Moving on. Let me catch up here. But don't do the one chip challenge because even he was not good the next day. It's just not it's just like a fun thing to do, but it legitimately fucks up your insides in a way that like you will be out of commission the next day. Knud Worgen, thanks for the 2. What if Gunko / Blanks is the Bluno / Lucci OP as fuck? I just don't see them beating up Gunko. And also at this point, it's like Luffy doesn't need Blunos because he's too far up the list in terms of world rankings From here on, it's kind of just... I guess Lucci himself was the last Bluno that we saw in Egghead. But it doesn't really mean anything now, because like the cool thing about Bluno was Luffy debuting a new ability on like somebody that was previously a very difficult challenge and just demolishing him. That was the cool thing about Bluno. That's not, I think, going to happen in the story again. I think Luffy, now it's just like the only characters that can actually push him to a new ability are the top tier final boss type characters. I do have to call stream in the next 10 minutes, I think, just to take dogs. Huh? Oh, I think I actually got a little bit more time. 15 minutes, basically. And then I'm going to take dogs. Thank you. Real Linskov, thanks a lot. Morj, I'm trying to sleep, but it's dark and I'm scared and my girlfriend is not home. Can you tell me a good night story so I can fall asleep? Yeah, just read the latest One Piece chapter. I think that'll basically do it. You want the gist of it? The gist of it is just they're in Elbaf. They check out King Harold's castle. They learn some stuff about King Harold. And then we cut back to Loki and the Gods Knights. And yeah, they fuck up Loki a little bit. And then we get the Shamrock's reveal. That's the story. I hope that was entertaining because we all really like that one. TDM9, thanks for the 2. Hadruden launching Mach Vs is the best strength feat in One Piece. Only if you are like the worst type of power scaler that power scales in a way that Oda definitely doesn't. I still remember the hilarious post of like, it was like some Twitter thing or Reddit thing or something of like someone posting that like, actually if you calculate like how heavy Mach Vs was and how far he fell and how hard Hadruden punched him and how far he sent him, like technically that's like 1,000,000 tons of force or something. It's like, dude, Oda doesn't know that. Oda doesn't know physics. Oda... Have you read One Piece? Do you think Oda is in the slightest aware of like the actual... like any of this actual shit? He doesn't do force-based calculations. Just whatever looks badass is whatever he does. Hadruden is canonically weaker than Gear 2nd Luffy. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Tom, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 28 months, man. Can we do an anti-feat tier list? Zoro asthma attack, Hadruden Moose, Mihawk versus Vista, etc. Rank based on how embarrassing they are. I love the videos. That is a hilarious idea, Tom. I feel like you're good at coming up with some fun stream ideas. Here, let me put that in. That's a great idea. Anti-feat tier list. In terms of feats that damage a character's reputation, even if they seem like outside of what should actually happen. Jolly D. Joseph, thanks for the 5. I don't know a girl who goes after a giant. Could be curious. Could be a scientist testing a hypothesis. Right. That's what she'll. That'll be the explanation she gives when she's pregnant with a 50-pound baby. I was just fucking scientists. Patrick Malone, thanks for the 5. Tin Hat Theory. The first time the world was destroyed, one continent became many. Oda said the name Pangaea Castle was significant in an old SBS. Shit. Whew. So maybe the first time, one big continent broken up into a bunch. Second time, world floods over. Third time, the world's back in one piece. And so the world... But then my question is, did Oda always have 2 cycles planned? That seems very extensive, and I'm not sure what's the point of the 2 cycles. That is very interesting, though. Very, very interesting possibility. I love that. That's not a tinfoil hat theory. That's a phenomenal theory. Patrick Malone. No, we just did that. Yeah, well, Patrick Malone, thank you for the idea, bringing that up to us. Cadmus Gaming, thanks for the 2. Would you rather Emu be a man or a girl? Waifu. I think not a waifu. I think so far it seems to me like Imu's a guy. So I think just fitting the vision that it seems like so far makes sense. I also, this might sound weird, and maybe one of my favorite aspects of One Piece is like when Luffy's beating up a villain that's like a really bad villain, he really just pummels and beats the shit out of them. Like lots of blood, broken bones, like extended shit. Like what he did to Crocodile, what he did to Lucci. I really enjoy that. Like that feels very cathartic, especially for the worst, shittiest villains. This might sound sexist, but I don't know if I would. Maybe it's just a subconscious thing or whatever, but like seeing Luffy do that to some woman would feel maybe a little bit off to me personally, just because how brutally Luffy finishes some fights. And now that I think about it, like if you think back to like Naruto and Sasuke defeating Kaguya, because that's like the most similar example, like they only sealed her. I don't think they even really beat her up that much. They just sealed her. I think that goes to show something. Now, if you're a series like Chainsaw Man, which is obviously very bloody and gory and all that stuff, then like, then it's kind of just like, yeah, just fucking, just fuck them up. Gender doesn't matter. Just fuck up whoever, right? I think just because One Piece, it feels like a more, I don't know. I think it would feel a little bit out of place to me to see Luffy beating up a woman as brutally as he did like Crocodile, Lucci, stuff like that. It just feels weird to me. I don't know if you want to, I don't know. I mean, like, I think Oda wouldn't even do that just because like the way Oda has Sanji talk, Oda doesn't even like shit on Sanji's ideals. He kind of like says like, hey, this is kind of a good thing. Like Sanji says a man should never hit a woman or whatever. That's kind of a good thing, Like it's not like Sanji's ideals are being shut down necessarily. So I do think that plays into how Oda himself thinks. I don't know. Like the only woman that Oda's really had Luffy beat up was Alvida. And I guess Oda felt that was okay because Alvida was a more masculine, physically masculine woman, I think, than Oda's other character models. BFJ97, thanks for the 5. Hey, Lorge, watch Severance. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard a ton about that show. Taffy Laffy, thanks for the 5, and thanks for your first super ever. Hey, Morj, you mentioned the giants. Did Queen Otahime actually give birth to Shirahoshi? I think Shirahoshi's not that huge. Like, she's not giant size. She's just big. She falls in the category of, like, she's like Neptune big, kind of. So, like, you can kind of stretch your imagination, like, like Otahime had to stretch. But, like, once you're giving birth to, like, a literal fucking giant baby, I don't know. Finer Heiner, thanks for the 2. Do you think the Elbaf fruit is Luffy's Nika fruit? I'm beginning to think that's possible. Here, let me pull up the thing we were discussing earlier as well. Just because if you look at that was brought up this stream. If you look at when the duel happened, 14 years ago, Loki, like, that's the big reveal. The duel happening 14 years ago, right? Because shortly afterwards, the Nika fruit is in the world government's possession. Shanks takes the fruit. Loki escapes Elbaf around then. Yeah, all of that kind of lines up. Joey Danko, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morji, is it me or does Yarrow have King Harold's sword in his head? Yes, it does appear to be the case. Also, do you think Shamrock was the shadowed figure waiting for the strides? I don't think that was Shamrock. Because Shamrock seems to have arrived later than that. But yeah, Yarrow does seem to have King Harold's sword in his head, which suggests that the fight may not have gone the way that it seemed, Oh, fish lay eggs. Oh, you're right. Sure, Hoshi could have been an egg. That's true. I forget. Is it ever established if the fishmen give birth in eggs or what? Jolly D. Joestar, thanks for the 2. Does Shamrock smell better than Shanks? That's a weird question, but that's probably, the case, just because Shanks is sailing around all the time on a pirate ship compared to living in luxury in, like, basically a 5-star, 6-star hotel all the time in Marijua. Probably a little different. Jolly D. Joestar, thanks for the 5. Emu is a woman who will have a monster form that will be acceptable to beat. Maybe, if there's a monster form. Cadmus Gaming, thanks for the 2. Imagine Emu is Joy Boy, Anakin Skywalker shit. No, because Emu reacted so strongly to the Joy Boy hockey, right? If that's his own hockey, that doesn't really make sense, right? Also, I will just say I did notice something. Which is all of you guys are looking, and it's hard not to notice. Y'all are looking at the background, and you're interested in the posters. You can have the posters. You can have them. They're all right here on this site. I'll link it to you all. You can buy them all individually. Right now we got Fishman Island going. Elbaf Village. This is the Sun Realm. So looking nice and sunny. Saboti Archipelago with beautiful sun rays coming through. Fishman Island. Beautiful watercolor style of Fishman Island. And then Witheria, if you want to get a little psychedelic. You know? So we got a lot of beautiful artwork going right now for this month. If you want these travel posters to add to your collection, I will link them for you right here, just because you all were asking so much. And the best part is, obviously, if you want to get them in a group, if you want all 4, you can get 50% off every single poster. So I'll leave that up there for you guys. Continuing on. Yeah, the posters are good. I don't gotta push anything really here. The posters are good. Posters are beautiful. Oof, Morj the poster merchant. Yeah. Anyway, this chapter opens up just a shit ton of really exciting possibilities. I think for me, the things that are most interesting right now in Elbaf are basically, how did the Loki Harold situation go? Because that feels like it links directly to the Shanks past and Shamrock past in terms of what were the Gods Knights involved. How did the Nika fruit end up in world government hands? So that whole mystery seems really integral to the plot of Elbaf. Then my next big question is basically, how likely is it that the Gods Knights are going down here in Elbaf? If they are, because I'm trying to think Shamrock matchups. I personally still lean. Let me just ask you guys, if you guys feel like Shamrock is not, if you guys feel like Shamrock is likely to fight Luffy, who do you guys feel like is Shanks' final matchup? Saboti looks dope. Yeah, I like all of them. I like all of them. My personal favorite is Fishman Island. Saboti does look phenomenal as well. I think it's a personal preference thing, because these are all very distinct art styles in this batch. All very distinct art styles. Let me zoom out a little bit. Let me ask you guys. 02657, thanks for the 5. If Loki proposed to Lola before that fight, then he did it when she was 12 or younger. What? What? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Did Oda think all this shit through? What has he done? It doesn't even make sense, because how Big Mom couldn't have allied with the Giants of Elbaf with that marriage proposal. This is a huge point. Time out. This doesn't make any fucking sense. Because Loki was persona non grata for the Elbaf Giants after the Harold duel, right? So... No, this is really bad. Yeah, Tom says, let's hope Oda's math just slipped up. Yeah, but then in which direction? The only thing that's fixable is, like, Lola's age, right? That's the only thing that's fixable here. But even then, it's kind of just like, you can't fix Lola's age without fixing a bunch of the other Big Mom Pirates' ages, right? Or you could just change what order of daughter she is. I think you just have to change the order of daughter. Because this other stuff, like if Loki fighting Harold 14 years ago is tied to the Nika fruit, that part can't change. That part's too important. Lolita? Okay, well, hold on. Think about it like this. What if... I need to go back and read the... Let me look at this shit again. What specifically did Chiffon say? What did she say? This is probably around chapter 860, I want to say. 855, maybe? 859, maybe? It's when they're taking a bath. It's probably right here. 858. I was off by a little. Okay. Okay. Mama practically cried with joy. If Lola became, okay, okay. Okay, so it doesn't actually say, okay, okay, time out. So to be fair, I'm reading the chapter. It does not actually say that Loki, so he's still a prince. He's still a prince, right? He's still known as a prince. Maybe like if Loki arrived and like if Loki individually proposed to Lola during that time, then it could make sense if Big Mom was not aware that Loki was a hated individual among the Elbaf giants at that point in time. If Big Mom didn't know that they didn't fuck with Loki at that point. The image is confusing because the image shows Loki with a crown and lots of Elbaf giants around him celebrating. So it would imply that he's still in good graces. 02657, you just fucked some shit up. This is not good. This is not good. Okay. Joe Altalite, thanks for the 2. Strahd versus Holy Knights, classic One Piece fights. I am of the opinion that I feel like the Strahds are not fighting the Holy Knights. I think they will fight the Holy Knights, but I personally think that, and maybe some will even go down this arc. I feel like just based off of Egghead, which was an arc to establish the Gorosei as villains, show how strong they were roughly, establish the Seraphim as villains, hype up their future strength. I feel like based on that, it's very possible that that's just what's going to happen in Elbaf as well, establish the God's Knights, etc. And then that way, heading into the big war where all factions are going at it, then Oda's set up Gorosei, Seraphim, God's Knights. We've had the hype arcs for all of them, right? I think that might be the case. I don't know if we'll be getting a full-on arc for God's Knights versus Straw Hats here. Oda does tend to save the big matchups where every Strahd gets a fight for the climax to full sagas. He doesn't really do it partway through a saga. He'll give Luffy big fights, like Luffy versus Katakuri or something, in random arcs. But for like all the Strahds getting matchups and stuff, he tends to save that for the end of sagas. So my last thing before I end stream here, I just have a question for the people. So, because a lot of people are split between Luffy, Shanks, or somebody else defeating Shamrock. Let me ask you guys, who would be Shanks' final opponent he defeats before he loses to Blackbeard? Because I think we can assume that he gets some victory before Blackbeard. It would be kind of a huge letdown if he just is hyped for so long in the story and then just loses to Blackbeard. I guess you could say beating Kid, but like Kid was a one-shot, so it's not really a important win. So let me ask. Assuming Shanks gets a notable win before Blackbeard, who is it? And I just don't feel like an Admiral is hype anymore after the Green Bull scenario. But I can say an Admiral, a Gorosei, Kid beats Luffy, or no one. No, why'd I put... It's really just an Admiral or a Gorosei. I'll throw in Shamrock. Green Bull is no longer an exciting matchup. He already essentially scared Green Bull. Like, it was pretty much... Like, there's no excitement to be had between a Shanks and Green Bull fight. Angel Rice says, where's the Mihawk option? I don't think Oda's going to have Shanks and Mihawk ever fight in the main story. If he does, I don't think Oda would just have Shanks beat Mihawk. Okay, so it's pretty split. I personally lean Shamrock. I think I don't see any Admiral because like it just doesn't feel. I don't feel hype about Shanks versus an Admiral at this point in the story. Like Shanks versus Fujitora, two good guys. Shanks versus Green Bull, there's nothing there. It's just we already got it essentially. It was immediately established that like Green Bull just does not. He's not gonna fuck with Shanks, right? Shanks versus Kizaru, I guess, is mildly interesting, but it's just like we've already seen Luffy Kizaru. Like I don't know. I guess Shanks. Okay, let me do this again. Let me do this again. What's most likely out of these three options? Most likely win for Shanks, assuming he gets one out of these three options. Let's say Shamrock, Garling, and Akainu would be the only one that I think is actually an interesting Admiral for Shanks to fight. So more people lean Garling than Shamrock. Interestingly, when I previously did the poll, I'm just curious how people's brains work sometimes. Because when I previously did the poll, I guess, okay, like people voted Agorist. Okay, now the votes are evening out to what it was like in the previous poll. Okay, Shamrock, Garling, Akainu. Okay, so Akainu's kind of lower on the end of possibilities, right? So Shamrock, I think we're narrowing down. I think we're narrowing down the possibilities. It seems like Shamrock and Garling are the front runners. And let me do one last one. Most likely to defeat Garling. This is the last one. Because a lot of people were advocating Dragon versus Garling. And that was something I wasn't thinking about earlier, but then like enough people said it that I started to lean towards that. So now, I'm going to say right now, here's how I view it. All right? It's conditional. If Luffy is set to defeat Shamrock here in this arc, and this is just like Shamrock is a Luffy opponent that he's supposed to defeat in this Elbaf arc, right? Then obviously Luffy gets Shamrock. I think Shanks gets Garling, and I think Dragon, there's going to be something else. Maybe Dragon versus a different Gorosei, something like that, right? If Shanks is fighting Dragon can get different Gorosei options. If Shanks is fighting a Gorosei, it kind of has to be Garling, because otherwise he just has no connection to any of the other Gorosei. Like, he's never even had any sort of personal beef with the Celestial Dragons outside of his own family is where there's like a tie that kind of makes sense, right? However, if Luffy does not beat Shamrock in this arc, then I don't think Luffy's ever beating Shamrock. I think that there's other characters that could use that matchup better. And in that case, I feel like Shanks defeats Shamrock and Dragon defeats Garling. So it kind of comes down to this. Like, what is Shamrock's role in Elbaf? That's my perspective. If this is an arc for Shamrock to be introduced and be defeated by Luffy, then Luffy's getting Shamrock, Shanks will likely get Garling, Dragon will get somebody else, right? If it's the other way, or if Luffy's not defeating Shamrock, Shamrock's here to stay, he's set for the final war, then I think Shamrock is a Shanks opponent, and I think Garling is, as we previously believed, a Dragon opponent. That's how I feel at the moment. Tom says, what do you mean? Why does Dragon care about one of the top Celestial Dragons? No, it's just that Dragon and the Revolutionaries, their whole direct conflict is specifically against the Celestial Dragons, right? Their whole thing is war with the Celestial Dragons. Like, their actual personal opponents are the Celestial Dragons. They don't even know about Emu. Like, to them, they only just learned about Emu. Remember that. So, actually, from their perspective, they've been trying to overthrow the Gorosei. Think about that. So Dragon and the Revolutionaries versus the Gorosei and Gorosei, God Sense is just like a natural matchup. It just inherently, it's who they're gunning to fight. Same as Shanks and Blackbeard is a natural matchup, right? The only natural, Shanks up till now has had nothing connecting him to the Celestial Dragons whatsoever. The only thing that actually ties him into a conflict with one of them is the familial aspect. So it's like, oh shit, Shanks himself is a Celestial Dragon, and his brother is evil and leader of the God's Knights, and his father is evil and head of the Gorosei, or strongest Gorosei or whatever. So that's a way to Shanks versus fucking Mars is just a random out of the blue matchup. Dragon versus any Gorosei is already a setup matchup, right? Dragon versus Garling would make a lot of sense because leader of revolutionaries versus strongest Gorosei, that kind of fits. The thing with Shanks is that him versus Shamrock already fits, him versus Garling already fits. You could argue Dragon versus Shamrock even fits, but for some reason that seems a little bit more random. It's hard to explain why. It's too speculative at the moment. Okay. I think if I had to guess right now, I would guess that Luffy does not defeat Shamrock in this arc, and therefore Shamrock is not a Luffy opponent in the... I think Shamrock will fight Luffy a little bit, establish how strong Shamrock is, but I don't know if Luffy is going to put Shamrock down the storyline. I feel like it's very possible that we see Shanks versus Shamrock, Dragon versus Garling, everyone gets their matchups. Luffy obviously gets his own matchups with Blackbeard, probably Emu, probably maybe a Kainu, who knows. All right. I've got 2 more supers, and then we're going to call it. Sid P, thanks for the 2. Where's the Wano Snakey? Been 3 years? Wano analysis? You already commented this. I already responded to this. Ryan Azar, thanks for the 5. Current strongest, first Emu, second Garling. I honestly don't know who can even stand to Garling 1v1 right now. He's Shanks with Gorosei powers. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I feel like it's possible Shanks doesn't fight him. Dragon fights him instead. I don't know. We'll see. All right, everybody. We are going to call it here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This was a phenomenal chapter. Really, really excited for what's coming up next. And